started. Running the association for several years, the main question I'm asked, how does the market will develop in the 6 months, in the close future, in the next 12 months? CEOs often have only a 3 years contract, so they want to know about the market in the next month. Today, I would like to highlight, to increase your awareness, what everyone in the coffee industry needs to do at least in the next 20 years. And not to increase business, but to survive in the coffee sector. So let's make a start. So with this provocative thesis, everybody needs to disrupt its own business just simply to continue its business. And this needs to be done in every step of the value chain. If you're a coffee farmer, if you're a green coffee trader, if you're a roaster, packaging, brewing, consumption, in every single step of the value chain of coffee, you need to be disruptive if you want to stay in the coffee industry. Let's go through these value steps. Some of these value steps I will cover shortly because I can refer perfect way to the presentations we heard yesterday's. On one part, I have several charts with research with me. Today, the coffee farming focuses actually on the ratio of performance of the bean, the quality of the bean, the yield, and the price. And it doesn't matter if you're in the mainstream market or in the specialty market. Coffee farming is always a question of quality and price ratio. This might sound to you a little bit harsh, but that's the trait of coffee farming. Just to continue this business, we heard yesterday, and I can perfectly refer to yesterday's presentation, 3 parts. First part is we are threatened by climate change. So we need to adjust the cultivation of coffee farming, agroforest, new species, new varieties. We will not have the possibility to change the coffee plantation to higher fields, into the mountains where it might be colder, because then Max will come back and tell us about European deforestation regulation. So we have to stay where the coffee is planted today. But we need to change in the next 20 years each single coffee plant. Each single coffee tree needs to be changed, refarmed with a new species, new variety, which is more resistant to climate change. Secondly, and we heard it yesterday as well, at the same time, coffee cultivation must become climate neutral. We heard it yesterday, fantastic presentation. So we need to replant, and at the same time, the new cultivation must become climate neutral. And the third challenge is the generation who's working there so far. Malaysia told us yesterday, the perfect example, the worker is quite old there. I brought the figures with me from Colombia and Kenya. So it's around the world, the workers are old. And the question of proof is, would we recommend our kids to become coffee farmer today? Never ever. But if we have no coffee farmers in the future, in the next gen, we will have no coffee guys. So we need to have the next gen in coffee. And we not only need them for the coffee picking, we need them to understand what they plant. So the presentation we heard yesterday from Colombia was also fantastic because the farmer, the worker, needs to understand the product he's working on. The bean, how does it taste? How does it change the volume and the other things while processing? So we not only need the next generation in coffee, we need coffee enthusiasts in the next generation on the coffee fields. If we will not fulfill our mission, these 3 missions in the cultivation of coffee, we will have less supply, significant less supply in the coffee cultivation in the next 10 years already. First challenge, so be disruptive, adapt to climate change, become climate neutral, and get the next coffee younger generation as enthusiasts. Let's come to coffee trade. Today, coffee trade is a matter of the bean, the quality of the bean, and the price. And we heard it yesterday regarding the EUDR, the presentation of grass, but also of drop and also of Enveritas. Several other points are added to the bean to be traded, to be allowed to be traded. So it's not in the future only the quality of the bean you need to take care of. You need to take care of the quality of the data linked to the bean. If you cannot bring the data linked to that particular coffee bean, to your roaster, to your coffee importer, you will not be allowed to sell the coffee anymore. I'm very sure in the close future, the pre-shipment sample, which comes now from Malaysia, Colombia, Brazil to Germany, we will have also the pre-shipment sample including lots of data files. Geocoordinates, due diligence, human rights, child labor. Every data set will already be sent in advance to the coffee container, to the European Union, to be checked. And only if these data linked to that particular coffee bean are signed with a tick, then you may be allowed to ship the coffee from your coffee plantation to Europe. So there will be also a very significant change in the coffee trade. This is linked to what Max already says, all these nice abbreviations, CS-DDD, EUDR, CSRD. This is law. This is not to negotiate with any client. It's simply we all have to accomplish that one. So next part is the roasting. If you ask a roaster, it's like magic what he does. Roasting profile, roasting temperature, roasting time, that's the magic to get the aroma out of the bean. If you ask all the other facilitators in the coffee value chain, all the roaster does, he's just changing the color of the bean, shifting from green to brown. But in a way, you change the color of the bean, you need energy. And the European Union focuses extremely and very clear that the energy which is used in German and in European factories has to be climate neutral. So every roaster in the future has to shift from using gas to green energies. For roasting, this will be either electric or green hydrogen. This might be possible in a technological way. So you can roast coffee by using electricity and by using green hydrogen. The main key question is, where do you get this green energy from? There's not at all any sufficient infrastructure across Europe to providing green energy to roasters. Even if you dream that you put a solar panel on the rooftop of your roastery, this will not be sufficient. And I brought one figure with me. So for a big roastery, which had a rooftop of 1,500 square meters, fully packed with solar panel, it will not be sufficient to bring so much energy which is needed to run the roasting machine. We need a lot of energy for the roasting. So we need the infrastructure and we need a lot of investments to become a green roaster. Next part in the value chain will be the packaging. The packaging is in these days seen as a need that the aroma will be secured. The main point for packaging is the oxygen barrier. And theoretically, every coffee package is recyclable, in theory. We know, in fact, by far the most of the coffee packages are in practice not recyclable. And again, there's European legislation. The PPWR requires that first the packaging must become in reality recyclable. And secondly, all member states are asked to reduce the packaging volume in the next years significantly. So we have to change the packaging of our coffee product. And so far, we do not see a packaging which is in practical recyclable and has the same function, the same oxygen barrier as we are known, as we have so far for the commonly used packages. So we have to decide in the close future, do we want to have a recyclable packaging, or do we want to have a packaging which does not have the oxygen barrier? We have to decide. And secondly, once we have decided, and the legislator will significantly help us to take the decision towards recyclability, all the packaging machines in the roastery does not function for these new materials. So in the big roastery, there are probably 8 packaging lines, each cost $1 million. They need to invest in each of these lines probably $1 million, just to have the new technology which is able to run with the recyclable packaging. So again, be disruptive, change your packaging for becoming sustainable. Next part is brewing and consumption. Who will be our clients, our consumers in the next 2 decades? And I brought several figures with me. Please, this is only for the bubble of the coffee family. And I know there are some journalists here. I kindly ask you not to go out with these data. And you will understand in the next minutes why. We also don't share it with media. This is to wake up the sector. So we are looking on the consumption. We are looking on the next gen, which beverages are in favor. And let's start with this chart. With the German Coffee Association, we run the biggest consumer research for coffee across Europe. We ask in the average 10,000 consumers, so the sample size is quite high, very reliable research. And with the very first chart, if you're sitting on the top of this lecture hall in the Olymp, you might not recognize any change. So I will kind of assist you and read the figures. This chart shows the proportion of the population drinking coffee. So we start in the year 2017, 92% of the population in Germany being at least 16 years old, drinking coffee regularly, 92%. And we run this research annually, and then you can see it goes slightly down. 92, 82, 87, 86, 85. Oh, 1% point, that's nothing in research, come on. But here, wake up. Within 6 years, we go down by 7%. If you continue that line for the next 20 years, and the most of us will still in the business in 20 years, we are at 65%. Every year, in the average, 1% goes down the proportion of coffee drinkers in Germany. So where is it? How does it come? So we look into the different generations. On the left side, on the very top, you can see the 85% I just mentioned. That's a total about all generations. Then we start with the elder ones. We call it the silent generation. 90% of the silent generations drink coffee. Same for the baby boomers, almost same for Generation X. Generation Y on the very, do we have a pointer here? Is there? No?
No, okay.
No pointer, okay. So, and then you can see Generation Y, already less, 82, and then Generation Z, 61% only of Generation Z consumes coffee. Whoo, alarm clocks go on. So, and now you can say, okay, but maybe because they are starting with 16 years old and maybe they start with 18 or 19 years old. Could be, but it isn't like that. I will illustrate you in the next charts why is it. And we ask that question always, the proportion of the generation drinking coffee. And on the left side, you can see Generation Z, starting with 16 years, Generation Z, 2018, the column is higher than 2023. So we also see here a drop down in the percentage of the Generation Z consuming coffee. What's very interesting is, at the very opposite side, the silent generation, but also the baby boomers, is also going down. If you compare 2018 and 23, it's going down the percentage of coffee drinkers. Why is that? And we have here also deeper knowledge coming from our research. The baby boomers are now the generation which retires. And the baby boomers are known as hardworking people. They want to prove they can bring power to the work. And each afternoon, after lunch, they drink coffee for a break or just to get even more power for the last 2 hours on the working day. But when they retire, they immediately stop the high consumption of coffee. They shift from coffee to a glass of wine during lunch, and I fully understand. So we really see the decrease in the baby boomers because of retirement. We might not change that, but we also see a decrease in the Generation Z. And why is that? I will illustrate in the next charts. I can skip that because of time. The next charts might look the same or very similar, but they aren't. I will guide you through. We see coffee always in a competition to other beverages, to all other beverages. And you consume a particular amount of volume on liquid per day. The question is coffee a part of that liquid you consume per day? We are in a competition to all other beverages. And so we ask here, what has been replaced by coffee? So what have you consumed before you entered the coffee consumption? And you can see the silent generation, so the elder people, the old guys, they replaced, because there was not that variety of beverages in the past, they replaced tea, cocoa basically. That's it, fully understood. And then the baby boomers, they're starting a kind of orange color. That's cola. So already the baby boomers consumed a little bit of cola, but then they moved on to coffee. And with Generation X, Y, and in particular Generation Z, you see the blue color, that's energy drinks. So if you start drinking coffee, you replace, as Generation Z, firstly energy drinks, secondly cola, third part black tea. These are our competitors in the beverage industry. And now we come to the next charts, which might look similar, but the message is basically the same. Which drinks are drunk at least occasionally to replace? And again, if you look at it, it's always the blue one and the orange one. It's always cola and energy. It's always caffeine. And it's cold. Our competitors are cold, Max. It's a cold brew maybe, might be the future. Yeah? Our competitors are caffeinated and cold. And when we look to the next one, what do those who rarely or never drink, so these guys who resist to drink our coffee, these guys, what do they drink? Cola and energy drink. So it's very clear. It doesn't matter from which angle you look at it. Is it replaced? What are our competitors? It's always blue and orange. Also very interesting, in the elder generation, it's different. In the elder generation, these guys not drinking coffee, not at all, they drink black tea. Hot. Hot, it's not cola. So, and then we look, which kind of coffee? And now I would like again to be a little bit provocative. If you talk with coffee experts, it's very important and it's politically correct not to put anything in your cup of coffee. Please no sugar, please no milk. If you put sugar or milk into your cup of coffee, when you're sitting together with coffee enthusiasts, you are out. Yeah? You're totally done. But let's see what the consumer puts in the coffee. And again, to the very left, that's the total overall generation. And again, you see it, N is 10,000. So we asked 10,000 consumers. The first one, the gray, is white coffee specialties. We call that white coffee specialties, cappuccino, latte macchiato, etc. Below that in black is black coffee specialties. That's espresso, cafe lungo, cafe americano. The white one is coffee with milk. And the one on the very bottom, that's black coffee. So we would say a filter coffee without milk and anything. So, and let's see. The pure black coffee is mostly consumed 40 and 39% in the elderly generation. They put a lot of milk in it. You see the white one over it, coffee with milk, 43, 41%. But when it comes to the Generation Z, and I know that lots of coffee experts tell me, oh, the next generation, the younger ones, they love that fruity taste, and they fully understand the specialty. They buy specialty 40 euros per kilogram. They really can taste the fine strawberry. They don't need to add any sugar or nothing. Look at that, Generation Z. Only 20%, the lowest figure, the lowest generation, puts nothing into. All others put milk, foam, whatever into it. And I will show you in the next chart even more. How sweetness and flavor is added. The left column is always the total consumption, and the right column is always the Generation Z, so the young ones. With milk and white coffee, in the average over all generations, 58% with milk. In the Generation Z, even higher. So the younger, the more milk you put into. Overall, 28% put sugar into the cup of coffee. If you're younger, you put even more sugar in it. So sorry guys, they don't taste the sweetness. They don't taste the natural sweetness in our fine coffees. They put a spoon of sugar into, and they love it. With sweetener, so the artificial sweetener, even more, with added flavor. Good news for our friends of the decaffeinating industry, which also attend this conference. The young generation prefers without caffeine. So this is definitely a new trend. So what I would really like to point out, we should not overclaim to educate the young generation to resist adding sugar into it. I don't care, I personally don't care if the consumer puts sugar or milk to the cup of coffee, which is brewed by using 7 to 10 grams of coffee. We want to sell coffee. If you're a coffee farmer, if you're a coffee trader, a coffee roaster, if you're a manufacturer of a coffee machine, we want to sell coffees. And if the coffee drinker adds something to it, happy to do so. We should not compete in our industry sector if this is natural sweetness or not. I hope you've seen our competitors are very sweet. Have you ever tried in the last weeks Coca-Cola? Monster, they are sweet, they are fruity. Monster or Red Bull is fruity, really fruity. Not a fine strawberry flavor. No. So we need to, and this is also that the young generation wants to have it sweet. There's scientific proof for it. You can read it at home or when you're going to bed, but it's not only our survey. And if you're still not convinced, we ask the young generation, why do you not drink coffee? And we have seen the young generation is a generation drinking less coffee, And with a time scale, they are drinking even less coffee. So we ask them, why don't you drink coffee? And we offer them quite a lot of answers. I don't prefer hot drinks. I have a problem with the sustainability regarding coffee. My friends around me don't drink coffee. It has an unhealthy image. It's too expensive. It's old-fashioned, whatever. And the preparation is too complicated. And I don't like the taste. The most given answer of the young generation why they don't drink coffee is, I don't like the taste. And we're telling them something about strawberry flavor. We need to reinvent. We need to be disruptive. We need to reinvent the coffee taste because we want to sell coffee. Every one lives from coffee, and every one of us is coffee enthusiast. And it's our mission that the next generation will be the same coffee enthusiast as we are. That's very important. So that's my key message from today. Be disruptive in whatever stage you are. And for the taste, maybe to come down a little bit, I'm still looking for a big brand who's inventing a new flavor, a new preparation, a new coffee brewing system, way, methodology, which will attract the new generation. And now you understand why I ask kindly the journalists in this room not to publish this message and not these charts, not the best news for the coffee industry. But we really need to reinvent the attraction of coffee to the next generation. Max, you mentioned cold brew, and you're also representing the decaf. I strongly believe that decaf could be the next trend for the next generation. I strongly believe that coffee could much more communicate it as a very healthy drink, and we have seen it yesterday in the presentation. There's fantastic scientific proof about the impact of coffee to the human body. The regulation is quite complicated in Europe, I know, but we are aware coffee has no calories, no artificial sugar. Coffee has different flavors which we might strengthen, adding whatever. Coffee has, if you want, no caffeine. So all these no is very fancy, we know, for the next generation. We could work on that one. And we have recognized our competitive beverages are cold and having the caffeine, which is also good for your business as a decaffeinator. But we might look at cold brew. In the US, the young generation drinks already more cold coffee than hot coffee. And I wonder why is it so far not possible in Europe to establish this consuming trend. So, let's come to an end. We need to be disruptive. In whatever value chain step you might work in, you need to reinvent your business. If you are a coffee farmer, you need to adapt on climate change. You need to become climate neutral. You need to educate the next generation. If you're a coffee trader, you need to not only look on the quality of the bean, but on the quality of the data linked to the bean. If you're a roaster, you need to find new infrastructure that you can become a green roaster. If you're packaging, forget about oxygen barrier. You have to focus on the recyclability of the packaging. If you are in the business and you want to sell coffee in the next 20 years to consumers, have a look at your portfolio of products that this will be attractive for the next generation. Thank you. It was a pleasure to have the stage with you.